Greetings everyone. As you can see, I've been hard at work on the Paludarium, although my video posts have been lacking sorely. Let's jump into the future with me and take a look at what I've been able to accomplish. So this upper section of the background is now pretty much complete. All the rocky looking structures are made of foam, expanding foam that I've then cut and tortured to make it look craggy and rocky, covered with black spray paint because I found that was the best way to create an adherent surface for then the acrylic paint I came back with a dark gray, then a lighter gray, dry brushing to sort of create a sense of depth and texture to it. On the left side you see a couple of pieces of driftwood that I put in such a way that I was trying to create the shape of sort of a burned out trunk of a tree, and later on, sometime in the near future, I'll try to create basically a stump for that goes into the water section. And then cocoa fiber in the background with silicone. I stayed away from the glue and cocoa fiber that I used on the last one because that didn't work out for me. And so far this has been working well. And then lastly, I went ahead and did the waterfall section. Any area that I thought would get water crossing it from the waterfall, I put some fiberglass resin over to waterproof it and just keep the acrylic paint from slowly degrading over time. So then it was time to get to work on the background of the aquatic section, and at first I just kind of put a bunch of spray foam in there and try to make it thicker where I wanted more shape and less so in others. And it didn't look great to me. In addition, I used some styrofoam to create some ledges, and that really ended up not working out in the future. You'll hear why. And then so what I did was, after putting this first coat of spray foam in and not being enamored with the texture and shape, I then used a technique that I found from another gentleman on YouTube who was making aquarium backgrounds. And what he does is he crinkles up garbage bags and lays them over top of the spray foam that he's put down, that he's recently sprayed on. So he crinkles them up, he lays them down, and that allows you to sort of shape and mold it, sort of poke and prod without getting your hands all messy. And then when the spray foam completely dries, you pull off the plastic and you've got more or less the shape you're going for. So that was a pretty cool technique, and got me to this point. And so after just some light work with a razor blade, in the areas that I thought were too sort of rounded and I wanted to be a little bit more craggy and rough, didn't take much after using that plastic bag technique. So then I was able to start to paint it. And the first thing I noticed, it's always nice to start off with the spray can coat, light coat of black or something, just to give it gets into all the little pores and holes and gives it a sticky surface for the acrylic paint to stick to. And then what ended up happening was, of course, with the styrofoam and not the spray foam, the spray paint ate it away. So it wasn't terrible, it created more texture, but it didn't cover it, in black paint the way I wanted to. It just ate it away. So that made my task when coming back with the acrylic paint just a little bit harder. And as I found out later, after I had gotten the color I wanted, as you see here, then I come back with the fiberglass resin to waterproof that section to keep the acrylic paint from degrading over time. And the fiberglass resin eats away styrofoam. In some places, it even melted the acrylic paint enough that then, even though the styrofoam was behind paint, it still got the styrofoam. So that was a frustration. And it's just one more reason why I'd say the grape foam is great stuff. I'm not going to use styrofoam again because that just turned out to be a pain. The only thing I might use instead of spray foam, the great stuff, in the future, is I've heard there are some spray foams that don't have some shrinkage after drying. And I did notice in a couple places when I was trying to mold the top and the bottom together, it would have been great if it had not shrunk a little bit, because that creates a gap between the two. So other than that, you know, here's looking at more or less the finished product. I had decided not to do an internal 2x4 frame on the base. I felt like this China Hutch was built to hold a fair amount of weight anyway. And I did some tests, like, you know, my wife and I standing on top of it and jumping up and down. It held fine. So what I did do is I added some white brackets that are made for holding up clothing rods in closets, because they had rigidity in the way that I thought this lower base might be at risk, which is lateral movement. You know, because it holds the weight vertically well, but if it starts to slide laterally, it could sort of fall down like a deck of cards. So I put in some corner brackets to basically address just that thing. And then I went on to work on some plumbing features. Here you see what's the most complex looking piece of plumbing work that I did on this project, but it is really quite simple. The red valve is a gate valve. And if you're doing a sump system, you want to use a gate valve, not a ball valve, to control your flow, because the gate valve is so much more adjustable and the ball valve is just not capable of being finely tuned. And you need to finely tune the downspout, the overflow, because if you don't, it's either slowly losing ground and your water level in the tank is slowly rising, or it is slowly gaining ground, in which case eventually it's going to get it low enough that it starts sucking air into that tube, and that's really noisy, and believe me, it can be quite noisy. And so I wanted to avoid all that. The gate valve does a great job of that. The black valve you see is actually that's a ball valve, and the reason I have that there is because I can open that, and this sits directly above a bucket, a 5-gallon bucket, and it allows me to drain directly into the bucket for a water change. So that is kind of a nice thing to add to this, is I don't have to be starting siphons and doing all that jazz. I can just open that, drain off like 4 or 5 gallons, close it, and, you know, have some water ready to go, put that into the system, we're ready to go, no problems. So then here came the big moment. I was so excited to finally put the top and the bottom back together and do the full water test. Obviously I had to wait for everything to cure, and that was painstaking 2 days, but here we go. It's up, and it didn't come crashing down, and the sump and the upper section have got full water volumes in them. So exciting for me. So while my full water test was going on, I used the momentum I had, the excitement I had about getting to that step, to start into my lighting features. And my goal here is basically cheap, effective lighting. So I found that for a pretty minimal cost, I could get one 3-foot piece of 4-inch aluminum piping that's used for chimneys. It's naturally fairly reflective. It's the right shape I want, because it's already bent into that, you know, light bulb reflector shape, that U shape. And with hacksaw I cut it into 3 lengths. Each length then I mounted a double bulb socket in. I was so happy to find these. I couldn't find these online, but I found them at like a restoration hardware place, a place that, you know, takes building supplies that have come from houses that have been torn down and just puts them in a warehouse, and you go searching around. And so I got a whole bunch of these, and it was great. And I was able to build these lengths, these 1-foot lengths with the mounted socket there, and I will have 6 of those above the tank. So here you see the system. It's got the full water test running. I've got the pump on, waterfall on, and I know you can't see the waterfall, but in the future I've made a vow to myself, when this thing really gets fully up and running, I will take the time to take a video of it and post that as sort of, probably not my final update, but, you know, kind of as the final build update. And but here's the full test. It's got half of the lighting above it currently. I've got to build 3 more fixtures. So each fixture has double bulb socket, and I put, you know, 6500 K CFL bulbs in. So each light fixture, I'd say a third of the price of the piping is about a couple bucks. The socket was $1, and then each bulb, what, another couple bucks a piece. and I've got 6 of those above it. So I think all together, I don't know, I think I'm going to be able to get the lighting section done for under 30 bucks. And from what I've seen so far, I don't know that I'm going to get daylight out of it. I know you could get more brightness out of halide and such. But for under 30 bucks, for something that puts out at very least, you know, kind of near daylight lighting in a good spectrum, and then doesn't put off much heat, and only utilizes, what, 12 times 20 watts or so. So that gets you all caught up. So this is how it looks right now. I'm just going to leave it in the garage and keep it running for a couple weeks. Basically make myself assured that I'm convinced this thing's going to be leak free, and give it enough time to show any signs of water seeping into the wood. And then after a few weeks time, or whatever it ends up being, I will then go back, drain the whole system, and take it apart and look, you know, trying to find any signs of that. But if it passes those tests, the next stop will be inside the house, which is pretty exciting. In addition, I'm going to be working on staining the upper section in the meantime, staining the cabinet doors on the bottom and hanging those to hide the whole sump setup. And then I've got those sort of fake stump facades to create, and that creates a lot more of that horizontal surface just above the water line. So I've certainly still got some projects ahead, but basically, you know, most of the building part is kind of done. It's pretty exciting. So I don't know how long I can hold off, you know, putting a test fish in the water, or, you know, throwing some plants in it, but I imagine that's coming soon. Thanks for watching.